Last week, we compared Claude and Azure OpenAI for business owners. And a few of you asked the obvious follow-up. Okay, you picked Claude. How do you actually get it set up so that it does work for your business? It's a good question. And next week, we're going to show you 5 real jobs you can hand to Claude Cowork. But you shouldn't hand it anything until it knows you and knows your business. So this is the in-between bit. It's 7 steps, a morning's work. None of it is technical. If you can install an app and write a sentence, you can do this, and it's going to make your setup better than 95% of the other people using Claude. First thing you're going to do is go to Claude.com/download and grab the desktop app for whichever machine you use. Mac or Windows, doesn't matter. Sign in to your Claude account. And if you don't have one, sign up. The free tier is enough to see what Cowork does, but if you see the value, and I promise you will, you'll want Claude Pro at about $25 to $30 Canadian per month. It's worth pointing out here that Microsoft is fast-tracking development of Copilot with Claude at the moment, and some of these features that I'm going to show you are currently only in Claude Direct, but they'll be in Copilot at some point. For instance, the Frontier program in Copilot has Copilot Cowork, which is Claude Cowork, but it's not available to everyone yet. So we don't want to sign up for an annual subscription. We just want to pay monthly at this point. Anyway, once you're in, click on the Cowork tab. It asks you to pick a folder on your computer, and this is the only folder that Cowork is allowed to read or write inside. So don't point it at your whole drive. Make a fresh folder and call it Cowork. Put it inside your My Documents. And a little tip for you here, if your Cowork folder is inside a OneDrive directory and you work from more than one computer like I do, like maybe you have a laptop and a work PC, then Cowork is going to be able to synchronize between the two systems. From now on, anything you want Cowork to touch goes in that folder. Anything you don't want stays outside. That's the permission boundary that makes everything else in this video relatively safe to do. Cowork reads a file called Claude.md every time you start a new chat or a new session. It's created by posting in 2 places, or you can do it manually. The easiest way is go into Settings, General, and Instructions for Claude, and Settings, Cowork, Global Instructions for Cowork. The reason there are 2 different versions here is you might not want Cowork to act the same way as your general chat. So they've given you the ability to go between 2 different instruction sets. But think of it as a 1-page manual that you'd hand to a new assistant on day 1. It should have who you are, what your business does, how you want to be talked to, what you don't ever want it to do without checking. You can write this file yourself, or you can ask Cowork to draft it for you. Personally, I would get it to draft it. Say something like, I'm the owner of a 20-person accounting firm in Vancouver. I'm not technical. Talk to me in plain English and define any jargon. Never send an email or post anything to a connected tool without showing me first. Always use Canadian spelling. Be direct. Don't over-explain. And my personal direction that I always give AI is, don't bother congratulating me on how smart I am. Just do the thing. Cowork writes the file, you'll read it and tweak the parts that don't sound quite right, save, and from this point on, Cowork reads that file at the start of every session and works from it. This single step is the difference between a generic AI tool and one that talks like a member of your team. Okay, Claude.md is the manual. The About Me folder is the rest of the personnel file. There's 3 files inside it. We're going to build aboutme.md, the longer version of who you are, what your business does, who your customers are, what you're working on this quarter, who your competitors are, the stuff a smart new team member would want to know on day 1. The second file we're going to build is memory.md, and this is a running notebook that Cowork updates after every session, decisions that you've made, preferences that you've shown, anything that should carry forward. This is what stops you from re-explaining yourself every time you start a new session or task. Third one we're going to build, and this one's really important, is called writingrules.md. How you want things written, your voice, the phrases that you never use, your no M dash rule if you have one, and you should have one. This is where you're going to tell it something like, Go and find the wiki on giveaways for AI writing and monitor that wiki, and continually adjust your writing rules so that you don't fall into those patterns. You're going to ask Cowork to create these 3 files and pre-populate them based on your Claude.md and a few questions that it asks you. Then you're going to have it add 1 line to your Claude.md file telling Cowork to read all 3 of these at the start of every session. This 2 minutes of setup, the output quality from this point on is going to be meaningfully different from what most people ever get out of their AI tool. Okay, now we're going to turn Cowork into a real assistant instead of just a chat box. So click Settings and then Connectors. You'll see a list of tools that you can plug Cowork into. Microsoft 365, Slack, your CRM, your help desk, Google Workspace, accounting tools, a long and growing list. For most Canadian small businesses, the first connection is the Microsoft 365. That gives Cowork access to your Outlook inbox, your calendar, your OneDrive, and Teams. The second is whichever industry tool runs your business. Maybe it's your trust accounting if you're a law firm, or your project tool if you're a trades or service business. It might be your website if you're a graphic designer. And the third is probably Slack or Teams for internal messaging. Each connection asks for your permission individually. You decide what Cowork can see and what it can do. PIPEDA, FIPA, and professional standards, they still apply to your data the same way they applied yesterday. The tool isn't changing the rules. So you have to think through whether your client data is allowed in a given system before you connect Cowork to it, the same way you would for any piece of new software. Skills are recipes that Cowork uses to make specific kinds of files. Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint decks, PDFs. There's a whole library and most of them are off by default. Go into your settings again, click Customize, and then Skills. Turn on the ones that match the work that you do. Almost every business owner is going to want Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and PDF skills on. If you do client-facing design work, turn on the design skills. Each skill teaches Cowork the conventions of its file type. With MS Word skill on, you can ask Cowork to draft a 1-page client memo and get back a real Word file with proper headings, page numbers, and formatting that you can email straight out. This is the step that makes Cowork feel like an assistant who knows how to use Office, not just one that writes text into a chat window. You don't have to configure anything, just turn them on and they work. All right, we are pounding through this. Plugins are bundles of connectors, skills, and instructions packaged for a specific role. A marketing plugin, a sales plugin, a legal plugin, an IT plugin, a productivity plugin. They install in one click and they give Cowork a chunk of role-specific know-how it didn't have before. So click Settings and then Extensions, Plugins, and then Browse. You'll find a small catalog from Anthropic and a growing one from the community. Pick the one that matches what most of your day looks like. For most owners, the productivity or the marketing plugin is the right starting point. After install, click Customize on the plugin and tell Cowork about your specific business so that it tunes the plugin to you. Here's the payoff. The reason to put in a morning for this setup. A scheduled task is an instruction that runs on a timer without you starting it. Like every weekday at 7 a.m., read my calendar, summarize the unread emails marked important from yesterday, and write me a 1-page brief. Now run that scheduled task the first time and pin it. And from this day forward, that brief is sitting there at 7 a.m. every weekday. To create one, go to the Scheduled section and click New Task. Write the instructions in plain English. Pick a cadence every weekday, every Sunday at 8 p.m., the last business day of the month, whatever fits. Save, and then click Run Now once so that the tool can request any permissions that it needs. From there on out, it's going to run on its own. There's a bit of a catch though. Your computer has to be awake when the task runs. Most owners I know who run scheduled tasks have a desktop that stays on, or they use Cowork's setting that keeps the machine awake while a task runs. If you only work off a laptop and you keep it closed at night, you need to make sure that you leave it open and plugged in, or move the schedule to a time that you're actually at the machine. The question every small business owner asks at this point in the setup: am I sure I should let an AI tool touch my email and my files? And that is a fair question. Two things to know. First, Cowork creates drafts. It doesn't send, post, or publish unless you tell it to. Your global instructions in step 2 said, never send anything without talking to me first. Cowork follows that rule. Because the rule is in the manual, it reads at the start of every session. Second, you control which folder it can read and write, and which tools it can connect to. If you want to start with just the folder and the calendar, do that. Add the email connector next month when you're comfortable. Add the help desk after that. The permission system exists so that you can draw the line where you want it and move it when you're ready. As we said, your data still falls under PIPEDA or whatever regulatory body your business is under. The setup doesn't change your obligations. If your business handles patient information, trust funds, or anything else covered by a specific rule, document the data flow before you connect a tool that will see it. Same homework you'd do for any piece of new software. Cowork is in the research preview at the time of recording this. I expect some rough edges, and I expect you should have to review the output before you act on it. Treat what it gives you the way you'd treat a new junior employee's first draft. The shape of what it can do is already useful, and the surface area of what it will be able to do is exactly what we're covering next week. Come back in this ever-changing IT landscape. Be adaptive. We'll see you next time.